Welcome to day 2 of solving two-step equations. What we are working on today is solving two-step equations with rational coefficients. And we want you to earn at least 7 out of 10 points on your exit ticket to show that you have mastered this. Now, hopefully by now you've grabbed your notes from the front. And if we look at the notes, here's what we are focusing on today. A rational coefficient means we have a fraction. So our first problem is x plus 7 divided by 3 equals 4. Our first step in this case is multiplying both sides by 3. We want to make sure that we get the fraction to disappear. Nobody likes fractions. Nobody likes working with fractions, so make it disappear. Well, to make it disappear, use your inverse operations. I multiply both sides by 3. On the left-hand side, I'm left with x plus 7, and on the right-hand side, 4 times 3 gives me 12. Now we're left with a basic one-step equation. If I'm adding 7, my inverse operation tells me I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. Those 7s cancel out to 0, and I'm left with x is equal to 5. Just like yesterday when we were solving these problems, you need to make sure to check your answers. We are taking the answer we found and plugging it into our original equation. In this case, 5 plus 7 gives me 12, and 12 divided by 3 gives me 4. So it checks out. Our answer is correct. If we look at our second example, there are some decimals in it, but we still want to solve it the exact same way. We have a fraction. We have d minus 3.4. The whole thing divided by 7 is equal to 2.8. So again, I'm going to start by getting rid of the fraction. I'm going to multiply both sides by positive 7. When I do this, my left side is left with d minus 3.4 equals 19.6. Decimals are still solved the same way, so I'm going to use my inverse operations. I'm subtracting 3.4, so the inverse tells me I need to add 3.4 to both sides. When I do this, I'm left with d is equal to 23. Again, go back and make sure you plug your answer into your original equation. If I look, 23 minus 3.4 is equal to 19.6. And 19.6 divided by 7 is equal to 2.8. So our answers are correct, and our work shows that. Now, at the bottom, we're going to write down our steps. If you need to pause the video to write it down, please do so. Our first step, we want to multiply both sides of the equation by the denominator. Remember, your denominator is your bottom of your fraction. So we are multiplying both sides of the equation by that number. After we do that, we want to add or subtract the number on the side that's with the variable. So in our first example, we subtracted 7. It's on the side with x, which is our variable. Our second example, we added 3.4 because it's on the same side as our variable d. Our last thing is to check. You are substituting your answer back into your original equation. When you have completed copying these notes, flip your page over. We're going to go through 2 examples together. Our first example is x plus 4 divided by negative 2 equals negative 5. Same steps as yesterday. For the first one, you want to draw that line down your equal sign. That way you know what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. We're going to use our inverse operations, and we need to get rid of our denominator. So since a fraction means division, we are now multiplying both sides by negative 2. When we do this, our left side is left with x plus 4, and our right side is now positive 10. From here, we can use inverse operations to solve this one-step equation. If I'm adding 4, the inverse is subtracting 4 from both sides. My final answer becomes x is equal to positive 6. Make sure you go back and plug your answer or substitute your answer back into your original equation. So I have 6 plus 4 over negative 2 is equal to negative 5. If I solve my fraction, 6 plus 4 gives me positive 10, divided by negative 2 is equal to negative 5. Positive 10 divided by negative 2 equals negative 5, so our answers work. If we look at our next example, x minus 6 divided by negative 2 is equal to 7. Your first step is to draw that line down the middle. From there, we want to get rid of the fraction, so we need to multiply both sides by our denominator of negative 2. When we do this, our left side is left with x minus 6, and our right side is left with negative 14. From here, it is a one-step equation. We're going to use our inverse operations. Instead of subtracting 6, we're going to add 6 to both sides. This gives us a final answer of x is equal to negative 8. Your last step is to substitute your answer back into our original problem. So in this case, we end up with negative 8 minus 6 divided by negative 2 is equal to 7. If I solve my numerator first, I get negative 14, still divided by negative 2, is equal to 7. A negative divided by a negative gives me a positive, and 14 divided by 2 gives me 7. So our answers match, which means our answer of x equals negative 8 is correct. At this time, we would like you to try the two practice problems underneath the two problems we just completed. When you are done, make sure you raise your hand to have your teacher check your work. If you are still struggling, please ask your teacher for some help.